Jack Thompson stood at the viewing window of the transport ship, his mouth slightly open as he stared at Sunspire Academy for the first time. The space station looked like a giant silver flower, its gleaming petals spreading out from a central stem that pointed directly between the two suns of the Gemini 4 system. Each petal contained different training facilities, or so the brochure had claimed. The human cadet adjusted his collar for the 10th time in the past hour. The standard issue uniform felt too light, almost like wearing paper compared to the heavy combat gear he was used to back in Earth's military prep school. But this was what everyone wore at the galaxy's most prestigious military academy, so he would have to get used to it. Approaching Docking Bay 7, the ship's AI announced. All new cadets, please prepare for artificial gravity adjustment. Jack grabbed his bags, noticing how the other alien cadets moved with extreme care as the gravity shifted. To him, it felt like barely any change at all. The transport ship connected to the station with a soft thud that made several of his fellow passengers stumble. "Welcome to Sunspire Academy," a tall, blue-skinned figure announced as they entered the station. "I am Professor Vale. You represent the finest young warriors from 30 different star systems." The professor's 4 eyes scanned the group, pausing noticeably on Jack. "Some of you are unique additions to our program." Jack tried to stand straighter under the scrutiny. He was used to being different. He was, after all, the first human ever admitted to Sunspire. What he wasn't used to was feeling like he was being studied rather than evaluated. The new cadets followed Professor Vale through pristine white corridors. Jack noticed how the others moved with deliberate care, as if afraid of breaking something. He felt like a bull in a china shop in comparison, his natural stride seeming too heavy, too confident. "These will be your quarters," Professor Vale announced, stopping at a circular chamber with doors spaced evenly around its circumference. "You'll find your room assignments on your datapads. Tomorrow at 600 station time, your combat readiness evaluation begins." One of the alien cadets, a tall figure with iridescent scales, raised a hand. "Professor, will there be live ammunition in the evaluation?" "Of course," Professor Vale replied. "This is an elite institution. We train under real combat conditions." Jack noticed how several cadets shuddered at this news. He checked his datapad. Room 17. As he walked to his assigned quarters, he overheard worried whispers about the upcoming evaluation. "Live ammunition. They're testing us already. I heard they lost 3 cadets last year. My brother said the survival rate is only 98%. Jack entered his room, finding it sparse but comfortable. The bed looked too soft, the desk too delicate. Everything seemed designed for creatures far more fragile than himself. He sat down carefully on the bed, trying not to put his full weight on it too quickly. A soft chime announced an incoming message on his datapad. "Cadet Thompson, report to Medical Bay 3 for standard evaluation. 1500 hours." Jack checked the time. He had 30 minutes. He changed into his training gear, again noting how light and flimsy it felt. The fabric, though supposedly the strongest in the galaxy, felt like silk compared to standard Earth military gear. As he walked to the medical bay, Jack passed a training room where older cadets were practicing. They moved in slow, careful motions, their instructors constantly warning them about overexertion. Through the observation window, he saw them handling weapons that looked like toys compared to what he'd trained with on Earth. Something wasn't adding up. This was supposed to be the most elite military academy in the galaxy, but everything seemed gentle. Either he was missing something important, or there was more to Sunspire Academy than anyone was telling him. The medical bay doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, a team of alien medical officers waited with an array of scanning equipment. As Jack stepped inside, he noticed how their eyes widened slightly at his confident stride. "Cadet Thompson," one of them said, checking a datapad. "Please, be careful with the equipment. It's very sensitive." Jack nodded, already suspecting that his time at Sunspire Academy was going to be very interesting indeed. The combat readiness evaluation began exactly at 600 station time. Jack stood with 20 other cadets in what the Academy called the high-risk training chamber. To him, it looked more like a pleasant park with some obstacles scattered around. Today's test involves live ammunition, Professor Vale announced, holding up a small silver sphere. These plasma rounds can cause serious injury, so please exercise extreme caution. Jack picked up one of the spheres from the weapon table. He had to stop himself from laughing. The dangerous plasma round had less power than a paintball back on Earth. The alien cadets, however, handled their weapons like they were holding live grenades. Begin exercise. Professor Vale's voice echoed through the chamber. The alien cadets scattered, moving with what they probably thought was military precision. To Jack, they looked like children playing soldier. He jogged casually through the course, while others crawled and ducked behind cover. A plasma round hit Jack's shoulder. It felt like someone had tapped him with a finger. He looked up to see Cadet Mira, a tall figure with silver skin, staring at him in horror. "Are you injured? Should I call medical?" Mira's voice shook with concern. "What? No, I'm fine," Jack replied, confused. "These rounds barely sting." Professor Vale appeared beside them so quickly that Mira jumped. All four of the professor's eyes were fixed on Jack with intense interest. "Barely sting. Fascinating. Please describe the sensation in detail, Cadet Thompson." The rest of the morning continued similarly. What the aliens considered extreme combat conditions felt to Jack like basic training exercises. The dangerous obstacle course had gaps he could step over, and the high-gravity zone felt like a normal day on Earth. During lunch break, Jack sat alone in the dining hall, poking at his food, some kind of nutrient paste that was supposedly optimized for peak performance. He missed real food. "May I join you?" Mira asked, carefully setting down her tray. Jack nodded, grateful for the company. "The training today was different than what I expected," he said. "Different? You took 3 direct hits and kept moving like nothing happened." Mira's voice was a mix of fear and admiration. Most species would be in the medical bay after 1 hit. Jack frowned. "But the rounds are so weak. Back home, we train with much stronger weapons." Mira's silver skin paled slightly. "Stronger, but these are military-grade plasma rounds." Before Jack could respond, an alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed, and Professor Vale's voice came over the speakers. "All cadets report to safety bunkers immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Chaos erupted in the dining hall. Alien cadets ran for the exits, some freezing in panic. Jack stood calmly, watching as even the senior cadets lost their composure over what sounded like a standard emergency drill. "We need to move," he told Mira, who sat frozen in her seat. "Follow me." As they made their way through the corridors, Jack noticed something odd. The station's security systems were activating, but they seemed designed to protect against threats that wouldn't challenge a human child. The emergency barriers looked like they would break if he sneezed on them. They reached the nearest safety bunker, where Professor Vale was taking attendance. Jack noticed how the professor kept glancing at monitoring devices while pretending to focus on the cadets. "Sir," Jack said, approaching Vale, "what's the nature of the emergency?" "Nothing to concern yourself with, Cadet Thompson," Vale replied too quickly. "Standard security protocol." But Jack had seen something on one of the monitors. Footage of himself during the morning's training exercise, along with readings and measurements he didn't understand. Next to it was a file labeled Deathworlders Survival Analysis. The alarm stopped as suddenly as it had started. As the other cadets sighed in relief, Jack's mind was racing. He was beginning to suspect that the live ammunition and security threats weren't the only things being misrepresented at Sunspire Academy. Jack couldn't sleep that night. The words Deathworlders Survival Analysis kept floating through his mind. After 3 hours of staring at the ceiling, he made a decision. If the Academy was hiding something, he would find it. The station's maintenance tunnels weren't difficult to access. The security was surprisingly basic by human standards. Jack had learned from Mira that most cadets found the tunnels terrifying. Dark, cramped spaces with occasional bursts of steam and the constant hum of machinery. This is what they're scared of, Jack muttered to himself as he walked through the wide, well-lit tunnel. It reminded him of the subway stations back on Earth, just cleaner. He followed the power lines that fed into the monitoring room he'd seen earlier. The maintenance map on his datapad showed a large data storage section ahead, carefully marked as restricted access, authorized personnel only. The door's lock mechanism looked impressive, but had a simple flaw. It wasn't designed to handle the force a human could easily apply. Jack didn't even need to break it. He just pressed the manual override harder than any alien species could. Inside, rows of data storage units hummed softly. Jack found a terminal and logged in using the basic cadet access codes. What he discovered made him sit down hard in the operator's chair. Species Classification Report. Humans. Terra. Initial Assessment. Class 5 Deathworlder. Current Status. Classification Restricted. Warning. Extreme Hazard Potential. Jack read further, his eyes widening. Humans weren't just strong by alien standards. They were terrifying. The report detailed how an average human could survive conditions that would kill most sentient species in the galaxy. High gravity, extreme temperatures, massive impact forces, toxic environments. Humans could endure them all. Project Sunspire, Research Initiative. Goal: study and contain potential Deathworld threats through controlled observation. Current focus: human integration analysis. Subject: Cadet Jack Thompson. Notes: subject displays concerning lack of response to Class 3 weapons. Recommend immediate protocol adjustment. The files went on and on. Sunspire wasn't just a military academy. It was a research facility designed to study dangerous species. The training exercises were carefully designed experiments. The live ammunition was meant to be lethal to normal species, but barely affected humans. A new file caught his eye. Previous Deathworlder studies. Jack opened it and found records of other species from high-gravity worlds. None had survived conditions humans considered normal. The Academy had been studying dangerous species for decades, but humans had broken all their scales. Footsteps in the corridor made Jack freeze. He quickly copied key files to his datapad and closed the terminal. As he slipped into a maintenance shaft, he heard voices approaching. The human's resilience is unprecedented. Professor Vale's voice echoed in the corridor. Today's weapons test confirmed our worst fears. Class 3 weapons are ineffective. Then we need to move to Phase 2. Another voice replied. Director Rand, the Academy's head. Increase the testing parameters. We must understand their weaknesses before more humans apply to the Academy. Jack held his breath as they passed. Phase 2. He needed to warn someone, but who would believe him? The alien cadets were terrified of normal human behavior. They'd never accept that the Academy was actually studying them. He made his way back through the tunnels, his mind racing. The Academy's true purpose explained everything. The strange safety protocols, the weak weapons, the constant monitoring. They weren't training warriors. They were studying what they considered monsters. Back in his room, Jack stared at the data on his pad. He had to be careful with this information. If the Academy realized he knew the truth, who knew what they'd do? They clearly feared human potential, and fear made people, or aliens, dangerous. A message flashed on his datapad. Tomorrow's exercise. High-intensity combat simulation. Live ammunition upgraded to Class 2 status. Jack smiled grimly. They were escalating their tests, not knowing he'd discovered their game. Well, if they wanted to study a human's capabilities, he would give them something to study. But first, he needed an ally. Someone who could help him expose the truth. His mind went to Mira. She had been the only one who didn't look at him with complete terror. Maybe it was time to show her what a human could really do. The next morning's combat simulation started like any other. Jack stood in the training chamber with 20 other cadets, watching Professor Vale demonstrate the new Class 2 weapons. Even these stronger weapons felt weak to him, like being hit with a rubber band. "Remember," Vale announced, "this is just a training exercise. If you feel overwhelmed, use your emergency beacon." Jack noticed something odd about Vale's behavior. The professor seemed tense, constantly checking his datapad. The other instructors kept glancing at the chamber's security doors. The exercise began, and Jack moved through the course easily. He was about to reach Mira to talk about his discovery when the lights suddenly went red. A different alarm blared. Not the usual warning tone, but a harsh, pulsing sound that made the alien cadets drop their weapons in panic. Unknown entities detected in Section 7. The station AI's voice was sharp with urgency. "Security breach in progress. This is not part of the exercise. Repeat, this is not part of the exercise." Jack saw the difference immediately. The new figures entering the chamber didn't move like instructors or cadets. Their movements were precise, military. These were real soldiers, and they weren't here for training. "Everyone down," he shouted, pulling Mira behind a barrier just as real plasma fire, not the weak training rounds, lit up the chamber. The alien cadets were frozen in terror. Professor Vale was shouting evacuation orders, but no one was moving. The intruders were advancing with professional efficiency, using actual military tactics Jack recognized from his Earth training. "Sir," Jack called to Vale, "those are Grade A weapons they're using. The barriers won't hold." Vale's 4 eyes widened in shock. "How do you know?" "No time," Jack interrupted. "Get the cadets to the emergency pods. I'll hold them off." "But the weapons won't hurt me much," Jack finished. "I know what this place really is, Professor. Let me do what humans do best." Understanding flashed across Vale's face. He nodded and began gathering the terrified cadets. Jack picked up 2 of the training weapons. They were weak, but he could work with that. He'd grown up in Earth's gravity. He was stronger and faster than these intruders expected. He moved through the chamber like a storm. The intruders' shots hit him, but their weapons were designed for normal species, not Deathworlders. Each hit felt like a punch. Painful, but nothing he couldn't handle. Jack's return fire was precise. He knew exactly where the training rounds would hurt most, even through combat armor. The intruders weren't prepared for someone who could take their shots and keep fighting. "Fall back," one of the intruders shouted. "The subject is combat capable." "Repeat, the human is active." Jack used their confusion to his advantage. He threw training equipment with enough force to dent their armor, moved barriers they thought were immobile, and took hits that should have put him down. The intruders retreated, falling back to the chamber entrance. Jack held his position, making sure Vale got the last cadets to safety. "Thompson," Vale called from the evacuation point. "We're clear." Jack backed away from the entrance, keeping his weapons trained on the door. Once inside the evacuation area, he helped seal the heavy security doors. "What?" Mira was staring at him, her silver skin pale with shock. "What are you?" "I'm human," Jack said simply. "And I think it's time the Academy explained what that really means." Vale nodded slowly. "Yes, you've earned that much. But first, we need to get to the secure level. Those weren't random intruders. They came for our research. They came for data about you." "About humans," Jack corrected. "About what we can really do." The evacuation pod hummed to life as Vale entered commands. As they descended to the secure level, Jack could hear more alarms blaring above. The Academy's quiet study of Deathworlders was about to become a lot more complicated. The secure level of Sunspire Academy looked nothing like the training areas above. Gone were the pretend military decorations and fake battle maps. Instead, Jack saw walls of scientific equipment, massive data screens, and observation chambers. "Welcome to the real Sunspire Academy," Professor Vale said, leading Jack and Mira through a heavy security door, or as we actually call it, the Galactic Species Research Initiative. Director Rand was waiting for them, surrounded by screens showing footage of Jack's fight against the intruders. The director's expression was a mix of worry and fascination. "Remarkable performance, Cadet Thompson," Rand said. "Though I suppose we should stop pretending you're just a cadet." "I found your files," Jack said. "You're studying Deathworlders." "Studying us?" "Yes." Vale moved to a large screen and brought up an image of Earth, your planet. "It's unlike anything we've ever encountered. The gravity alone should make life impossible. The temperature swings, the atmospheric pressure, the natural disasters. But we survived it all," Jack finished. "Survived?" Rand laughed softly. "You thrived in it. Look at this." The screen changed to show a comparison chart. Earth's statistics were off the scale compared to other inhabited worlds. "A normal day on Earth would kill most species instantly," Vale explained. "The pressure would crush them. The oxygen levels would poison them. The bacteria in your air would destroy them." Mira, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. "Is this true? Humans live in these conditions." "We don't just live in them," Jack said. "We enjoy them. We go climbing in higher gravity for fun. We swim in deeper pressures for sport. We eat things that would poison you, just because they taste good." "Exactly." Vale's 4 eyes were bright with excitement. "You're not just strong. You're impossibly resilient. The weapons those intruders used, they were military grade. They should have killed you instantly. Instead, you treated them like minor inconveniences." Jack thought about the live ammunition they'd been training with. "So all the training, the safety protocols, were designed to study you without revealing our true purpose," Rand finished. "We needed to understand what humans were capable of. The galaxy isn't ready for the truth about Earth." "And what truth is that?" Jack asked, though he was beginning to understand. Vale pulled up more data. "By our normal classification system, Earth is beyond a death world. It's a horror world. The fact that humans not only survive there but consider it comfortable, it changes everything we thought we knew about life in the galaxy." "The Academy was created to study dangerous species," Rand explained, "to find ways to help them integrate into galactic society. But humans," the director shook his head. "You're not just another species to study. You're something entirely new." "Those intruders," Mira said suddenly. "They wanted this information. About humans." "Yes." Vale looked grim. "There are groups who believe humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the wider galaxy. They want to contain you, study you, maybe even use us," Jack finished. "Turn us into weapons." "Which is exactly what we've been trying to prevent," Rand said. "By understanding humans better, we hope to find ways to help you join galactic society safely, to show others that your strength doesn't make you a threat." Jack looked at the screens showing his fight footage. He saw himself taking hits that would kill any other species, moving with speed and power that seemed impossible to them. He understood now why the alien cadets had been so terrified of him. "So what happens now?" he asked. Before anyone could answer, new alarms started blaring. The security screen showed multiple ships approaching the station. "They're coming back," Vale said urgently. "And this time, they're bringing an army." Jack straightened up, feeling the weight of what he'd learned. "Good," he said, surprising everyone. "It's time to show them what a human can really do when they're not holding back." The enemy ships surrounded Sunspire Academy like hungry predators. On the security screens, Jack counted at least 7 vessels, all heavily armed. "They're demanding we hand over all research data on humans," Director Rand announced, reading the incoming message. "They're threatening to destroy the station if we don't comply." "How many people are still on the upper levels?" Jack asked. 32 cadets, 15 staff members," Vale replied. "The evacuation pods can't launch with those ships so close." Jack looked at the station schematics on the main screen. Then we need to protect the station long enough for everyone to escape. He turned to Mira. You know the Academy's systems better than I do. Can you help? Mira's silver skin shimmered with determination. Yes, I can control the defense grid from here. Good. Jack picked up a real weapon this time, not the training models they'd been using. Professor Vale, I need to know exactly what this station can do when it's not pretending to be weak. Vale's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. The security systems are actually quite powerful. We needed them to contain dangerous species if something went wrong. But against 7 ships. Show me, Jack insisted. And Director Rand, I need access to the real armory, the one you keep for emergencies. Rand hesitated, then nodded. Follow me. The director led Jack to a sealed room behind the research center. Inside was an arsenal that made Jack smile. These weren't the toys they'd been training with. These were genuine weapons. These are Class 1 weapons, Rand warned. Even for a human. They'll hurt, Jack finished. Good. They should. Alarms blared as the first enemy troops breached the upper levels. On the screens, Jack watched them move through the Academy's halls with military precision. Mira, seal all doors between levels 3 and 4, Jack ordered, checking his weapons. Professor Vale, activate those security systems. Director Rand, hit everyone to the emergency shelters. What are you going to do? Mira asked. Jack loaded the Class 1 weapon. I'm going to show them why studying humans was a good idea. He moved through the station like a force of nature. The enemy troops were good. They had proper training and advanced weapons. But they weren't prepared for a human fighting at full strength. Jack used everything about himself that had terrified his classmates. His speed evolved to chase prey on Earth, let him strike before they could react. His strength, built for Earth's gravity, let him throw attackers across rooms. His endurance, developed to survive Earth's harsh conditions, kept him fighting when their weapons struck him. Security systems online. Mira's voice came through his communicator, deploying countermeasures. The station's hidden defenses activated. Force fields that could actually stop weapons fire sprang up. Gravity controls that could really immobilize threats engage. Everything the Academy had held back was now unleashed. 3 ships down. Vale reported. Their fleet is breaking formation. Jack fought his way to the main docking bay, where the enemy forces were trying to bring in reinforcements. His Earth-evolved muscles, dense and powerful, let him handle weapons that would tear apart other species. Jack, Mira called through the comm. The evacuation pods are ready. Everyone else is clear. Time to end this, Jack replied. He reached the docking bay controls and input commands with strength that broke the safety limiters. The bay doors began closing while ships were still trying to dock. All hands, clear the upper levels, Jack ordered. I'm about to decompress the docking bays. The enemy troops realized what was happening too late. When Jack hit the final control, the bay doors sealed and the atmosphere vented, taking the unprepared invaders with it. Fleet is retreating, Vale announced triumphantly. They're running. Jack made his way back to the secure level, his body aching from wounds that would have killed any other species. He found Mira, Vale, and Rand waiting for him. Now they know, he said simply. Now they understand what humans can really do. And what will they do with that understanding? Rand asked quietly. Jack looked at the retreating ships on the screen. They'll learn what we've known all along. Earth didn't make us monsters. It made us strong enough to protect others. 3 months after the attack, Sunspire Academy looked very different. The fake military decorations were gone, replaced by honest research equipment. The training areas now had 2 sets of everything, one for standard species, and one for what they now officially called high-gravity adaptation species. Jack stood in the new arrival hall, watching the first group of human cadets walk in. Their eyes were wide, just like his had been, but for a different reason. The truth about the Academy was now public knowledge. "Welcome to Sunspire Academy," Jack announced to the group, or as we now officially call it, the Galactic Species Integration Center. Professor Vale stood beside him, all four eyes showing approval. After the attack, the Galactic Council had been forced to acknowledge the truth about humans. They couldn't hide it anymore. Not after videos of Jack's fight had spread across the galaxy. "You are the first official class of human cadets," Vale explained to the newcomers. "But you're not here to be studied. You're here to help us understand each other better." Mira, now a senior instructor, stepped forward. Her silver skin gleamed as she activated the main display screen. "This is what we've learned about humans in the past 3 months." The screen showed training footage, humans and aliens working together, each using their unique abilities. Humans acted as protective escorts during dangerous operations. Alien species provided technical expertise and scientific knowledge that humans hadn't discovered yet. "We're not here to prove who's stronger," Jack told the new cadets. "We're here to show how different species can work together." Director Rand, who had fought to keep the academy open after the attack, joined them. "The old classification system is gone," he announced. "No more hiding what humans can do. No more pretending that being from a high-gravity world makes you a monster." Jack picked up one of the new training weapons, real ones this time, not the weak versions they'd used before. "You'll train with actual equipment here," he explained. "Both human-grade and standard alien equipment. You need to understand both." The new cadets looked nervous but excited. They were the first generation who wouldn't have to hide their strength or pretend to be weaker than they were. "Your first lesson," Mira said, "will be understanding why other species see you the way they do." She pulled up more displays showing the different gravity levels, atmospheric pressures, and physical capabilities of various species. "And your second lesson," Vale added, "will be learning how to use your abilities to protect, not frighten." Jack remembered his own first days at the academy, how confused he'd been by everyone's fear. Now he understood. And more importantly, now he could help others understand too. "The galaxy is changing," Director Rand told the group. "The attack on this station proved that we can't hide from our differences. Instead, we need to learn from them." One of the new human cadets raised her hand. "But what about the people who attacked? Won't they try again?" Jack smiled. "They already have, 3 times in the past month. But now we don't have to hide what we can do. And more importantly," he gestured to where Mira stood confidently beside him, "now we have allies who understand us." "The future of galactic society depends on cooperation," Vale explained. "Humans aren't the only ones who evolved in harsh conditions. You're just the ones who showed us that being strong doesn't mean being dangerous." Jack looked at the new class of cadets. Humans ready to learn, aliens ready to teach, and everyone ready to work together. The Academy's shocking truth had become its greatest strength. "Now," he said, picking up a real training weapon, "who's ready to show the galaxy what humans and aliens can do together?" The eager response from both human and alien cadets proved that Sunspire's new protocol was working. They weren't just studying Deathworlders anymore. They were building bridges between worlds. And this time, they were doing it honestly, with respect for what each species could bring to the galaxy. The age of secrets was over. The age of cooperation had begun.